Hey guys, today I'm going to talk about how builders would use a plus design build model that may have been drawn from a third party. Now this particular model has been drawn, a builder purchased the software, Ricky was his name, he purchased the software, said, you know what, this is exactly what I need, but he was too busy, he was at the coalface, he just goes, oh man, I couldn't build at the same time as learn to draw. And that's a common occurrence. So what Ricky did is he actually employed somebody overseas to draw the model for him. Now, the person that's drawn this model has never used Plus Design Build before. However, what he has delivered is some great communication for Ricky to be able to solve his problems. So let's have a quick look at the model here and see what it is that we do. Right, I've got my mouse turned on here and you'll notice when I click on the center button on my mouse, or left or right, it's following what it is that I do. Now, I'm going to do several things first. If I push my center mouse button, I can scroll around the model. Don't worry if you get lost in space because it has these things at the top and these are called scenes. And what scenes do, they allow us to look at the model in different stages of the project. So again, this model's been drawn by an external party who isn't a PlusSpec user. So let's have a look. If I click on all, it's actually just showing everything. You'll notice that we have some blue coming through here. Not a big deal. It is a slight problem done by the designer when he created the roof. He didn't give it a batten thickness or a sheathing thickness. If I went to structure off, it's going to turn off the structure behind the thing. So you notice that I can't see as much structure, but the designer should have actually looked at these scenes at the top here and he should have controlled this a little bit better. If you are the designer that designed this model, pay attention to what I'm saying here because it will help the builder. If I go roof off, it's turned the roof off, but he's drawn this other structure and he hasn't put it on the right scene. It really should have been layered or hidden. I'm going to hide it and I'm going to go right click and I'm going to update it. Now, guys, you don't need to go that far. I would just tell them to do it. Now, here's the thing, telling people what to do. How do you do it easily without getting involved in a whole heap of stuff? Inside of the Plus Design Build toolbar or PlusSpec toolbar, it has this tool here called BIM MEP. If I click it, it's opened up this little toolbar up here and you'll notice it has this little tag tool. When I click it, it has, these are categories of tags. So for instance, the first one is communicate, the second one is cost. So for instance, if I want to communicate with the subcontractor, I click on communicate. I will click on this drop down here. And what is it I want to communicate? Is it allocated time tag? How long did he take to draw it for a cost? Is it authority conditions? Is it something the council needs to know? Is it a comment? Let's just, at the moment, let's click comment. And if I go submit, I can now, you'll notice if I move my mouse, I can place a comment wherever it is I please. And I'm going to say, well, you know what, that part there is sitting in midair, why? Right? When I clicked on the comment, I can give it a status. So how important is this? Because you're going to come up with multiple things and some are more important than others. So you can say it's in progress, isn't complete, or I need you to look at it now. And when I change these, it will change the color on the top of the tag. So you can see when it goes back to the subcontractor that drew it, the status of it, and you can click on it and learn from it. You can assign it to a person. I'm going to call this sub, but you would put in the person who drew its name. Assign from me, which is Andrew. And my contact email if you needed it. Obviously you'd think they would have that. The location, you can type that in if you want to, and you can put in notes. I can say what holds up this roof, this deck. Right. Now, if you knew what it was and you went, you know what, it's just a designer, they don't really understand this, you could actually just go and add in a price and make it a note for yourself and add in $1,000, right? So you can say, I'm going to add $1,000 in here. If it's not something you're telling someone else to do, whatever it is, I'm not going to do that actually, right? And I'm going to go submit. Now it has a status being orange, and when the designer or whoever did the model goes back, they can look for these tags and they can change the status of the project and they can respond. I added footings, whatever it is, right? When I go submit, it's going to give that a time tag. So if I actually went right click and down the bottom take off selection only, it means that it only read the information associated with that tag. And if I went into here, you'll notice under other components I have tags, and it tells me the date, the time, and everything that's required to it. I didn't associate a cost with it because I want someone to fix this. If I said, you know what, I haven't got time for that, I just need to get this quote out, I might say, you know what, I actually need to associate a cost tag. And it could be build time, it could be complexity, it could be custom, it could be difficult site access, draw time, rise and fall clause tag, provisional allowances, variation tag, whatever it is. All of these things work in stages through the project and you can assign cost to them. I'm going to associate build time with this here and I'm going to go submit, and here I need to I need to fill the ground. Right, I need to fill the ground, and from my experience as a builder, poorly spelt, assigned from me, Andrew, and I'm going to say allowance to fill ground, 5 hours and truck and bobcat. And I'm going to say my price here is going to be, let's say, $5,000, right? You can fill in these as much as you want to and go submit. It's now associated that so I can get on with my quote. And we are going to talk about estimating from this design model, but before we get into that, we're going to look at the benefits of the model. What is it that we needed to tell the designer to go back to? So let's look at this as first iteration of the job. We've looked at the model. I can see that there's a problem here. Now, I don't know what it is. I haven't seen the plans of this job, guys, but I can see that the roof is higher than the rafters. Now, that could be one or two things. It could be that the guy who used it hadn't spent enough time to learn how to use multiple roofs. By the way, the tutorials are built inside of every tool. So if I went right-click roof, I could essentially go to my roof tool, and there'll be a question mark inside of every tool. You'll see that here. In the wall tool, there's a question mark here. The designer should have learned how to use this. If he had a question, sometimes it's a good idea to book in training for them so they can get up to scratch and make your job a bit easier. Let's move past that. There's also a forum they could have used to go and type in a problem, taking a screenshot of this and said, hey, how do you do this? And our user base usually responds quite quickly. Right, so moving on, I can see there's a problem there. I would put a tag on here. Why is there a problem here? So again, quick tag, and it is going to be a comment. I would also look at the set of plans here. Instead of just asking a whole heap of comments, I'd quickly look at the plans that I had and figure out whether maybe there's a plan error or the fascia lined up on the plan. Designer says it lines up on plan, but the wall height is different. It could be a plan error here. Type in whatever it is that you wanted to do, who it is. So I'm going to assign it to sub again, from me, and why is this roof high? I looked at the plans. It's your problem. Whatever. Probably a little bit blunt, but you get the idea. And poorly spelled. Submit. Right. I'm going around the job and I'm still continuing to see more. Now, here I can see that obviously this project is sort of layered 3 times. And I want to go, well, what's behind here? Now, there's 2 ways. I could put this in transparent so I can see through the project. I'm going to tell you how to do that in a second. Or I could click on it, so spacebar, right click, and just go hide. And that enables me to see, okay, well, the designer has considered this, they have done this, and I can figure out my cut and fill. I would actually tell them to figure out the cut and fill for me, and there are some tutorials on that as well. I know how much dirt I'm going to cut out of here and how much of this soil I'm going to fit in here. You'll notice there's a tutorial on that you can tell the designer to do. You could give it a tag and say, hey, I want you to do cut and fill. That will give you quantities in your takeoff. I'm going to keep looking around the project. Are there any other issues that I can see? Looks like it's got a level eave here. It should have been raked. I think, personally, I think that the guy who did this should have spent a little bit more time on it. And we can go around here. So I'm having a bit of a look and go, okay, that's good. Now, I want to see other parts of the project. Now, again, at the top here, we have these things called scenes. If I click structure, it's turned all of the cladding off. And even though the designer may not know how to build, it's actually automatically putting in construction methodology according to typical standards. Now, you might say, well, you know what, this wall here needs to be 16 on center or 450 centers on studs. You can put in another tag and tell them to do that. You can do it yourself too, guys. It's not that hard. It's just basically right click, walls, edit wall, and you can basically go and change the stud spacings in 5 minutes, right? The next thing I want to look at is the buildability, or how much is this going to cost? Can I see some mistakes that the engineer may have over-engineered? And as I said, guys, I haven't seen the plans here, but man, that steel beam over top of it doesn't seem to make sense to me. I don't know why it's there. If it's on the engineers, I'd be questioning the engineer. But if I wanted to look at these joists by themselves, I can actually set up a keyboard shortcut that enables me to do that. Now I've set up Control H as hide rest of model. Now if I double click on this and I go Control H on my keyboard, it's isolated those so I can actually see what's going on. I could put a comment tag on here for the engineer and send it to him, or I could screenshot it and send it to the engineer, but I would be double checking my plans versus the model, and I would be trying to ensure that the right person who's doing the job should get it right. Now, this designer has gone through and put in a whole heap of brackets, the correct flooring and so on, and I would be pretty confident that that takeoff of this particular part of the project would probably be right. So I can just go right click and I can go takeoff, selection only. And it will go through and it will tell me all the lengths of all the joists and everything inside of there, framing, flooring, floor joists, hardware, even the lengths to cut them all if it was done correctly, right? So the takeoff is happening not just by the whole model. So if I want to estimate the whole model, to do a takeoff on the whole model, I could click takeoff here and it will estimate everything I'm looking at on screen. However, if I wanted to look at the cladding as well, I would go to all and then do my takeoff, and then it would do a takeoff on everything there. In certain instances, you see, this could take 15-20 seconds because it's figuring out every single length of the model. Right, which means essentially the framing, if I went into advanced framing, it's going to tell me the length of every single thing inside of here. And that, is going to take a certain amount of computing power, depending on the speed of your computer, but what it will do is save you days of time figuring things out. Right, and as you can see, it's gone through all my balcony joists, it's given me the cut length, the order length, and everything that's required inside of here. There are tutorials on this as well, guys. So for instance, everything that's red here is over the maximum length I can purchase for that. I would tell the designer to go back and do that if you're getting them involved in the structural detailing and so on. If not, you just want to do a full BOQ. It's easier just to say, right, I just don't want to do advanced framing. I just want to know the total lengths of everything that's inside of there. And it will just give you the length. So now if I went to my joists, I got 23.24 meters of 140/35 or 6 by 1.5. If I went to my flooring, it's telling me how many sheets I require or how many square meters. For a quick estimate, I just need to get it out the door. I would go and add my prices in here, and essentially I can go from there. All of my takeoff tags and everything are also quantified inside of here as well. So I've got the comments tag, the build time tag, I put $5,000 in there, and all of the things. So everything is timestamped so we know when it happened, which means that we can get on with actually doing what we need to do while someone else is doing our work. It is a good idea to learn how to use this, guys, but I've been at the coalface and understand that it's not always that easy to get everything done. And I think that Ricky's had a good idea here to send this off. But guys, you need to look at the model as if you're going to build it. Pretend you're on the job site. Why can't I hold this roof up? Oh, there's a beam missing. Either use the beam tool, quickly put in a beam, choose a size, a type of beam, put that beam in there. You can click it and put it in yourself in 5 seconds flat, or put in the time tag and away you go. Right, now I have the beam in there. I can move forwards, job quoted, solve that, move next. Right, there's a fair bit going on here, guys, and I am talking quickly. As you can tell, I'm a builder and I do talk quick. I'm going to recap. If there's a question or something you think needs to be fixed, it could be a discrepancy in the plan, take a screenshot of it and send it back to the designer. If it is the subcontractor who's drawn your model and it's their problem, get them to fix it. We're just allocating tasks, but we're doing it in 3D because it's faster, easier, and better. The point of this is that you can see how a project goes together so it can be built more efficiently, and you can do a bill of quantities and actually create a quote from this model and use this model as a virtual model to build before you actually build. In recap, to do that, go and click on the tags at the top here, all, right? Have a look around the project. Put in any comments with the tag tool. go around and tag the whole thing up, send it back to the designer. If it's important and you really need to get the quote out in a hurry, which we've all done, needs to be out tomorrow, use a cost tool and just override it and type it in. You can then send it back to the designer and get him to change it if you win the job. Have a look at all the scenes. Now, if these scenes aren't showing you what you expect, for instance, that's way out, it's kind of speak to the designer and say, man, I want you to set these scenes up for me. It's priority for the designer to do all the hard lifting grunt work for you. That's why we have them. And in this case here, I'm looking at joist, but I have roof framing in there. He can turn or she can turn those off and update that scene so that it works. I'm going to show you how I would do it. I'm going to go through and I'm going to hide them. So I'm going to use a keyboard shortcut called hide. And I don't need that as well. I'm going to hide that and I'm going to look at it. Is that what I want? This is the designer's job to do. As I said before, you can also isolate geometry in different ways. Now I've done that, I'm going to go right click, update, and when I click on it, it should go back to where it is, but it's the designer's job to do this, guys. It isn't yours, right? Structure with sheathing, okay, he's done that. He's got his bracing in there. I'm happy with that. Move forwards, but it wasn't necessary to have this roof turned on. He should have gone through and hit it or turned the layer off so that he can do it and then go right click update. This is their job to do the maintenance work, the grunt work. So when you look at it, you can go, okay, well that one doesn't work either. I would probably go back to that design and say, man, look, just make sure the scenes are right for me. Number one, the tutorials are inside of every tool, as I said before. Roof framing and trusses, that one's okay, but it's missing some trusses, right? I'm going to go back to structure off and I'm going to look at it from a client's perspective. I'm going to walk in the door. Now, I can remember that these trusses here were raked. Why is the ceiling level? It's going to throw your estimate out. He has put his flooring in there. He has put his floor finishes in there. Great. When you do the takeoff, guys, again, I'm going to quickly do that takeoff one more time. This is what I would do. Wait for that takeoff to happen. Go to client estimate and export it as a CSV. And then I'm going to quickly look at it and go, why is this there? Right. I'm going to call this delete. Because this is really the nuts and bolts of a quote. Delete client estimate, that's today. Yep. Okay. Right. Okay, here's all the engineering in there, the trusses, everything that he's put in there, the slab, how much polyurethane, all those things, and you can go and add your prices in as you go. Right, sheeting, compressed flooring, bolts, the whole lot is there, right? As I go down, this, guys, is hours and 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 hours of work that's all been done. All of your windows are there, the type of window that's there, everything's there. Go through this. If you wanted to use this to communicate with the client, with the subcontractor to get them to fix something, you want to change the name, just go and write in it. Which window is this, or whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? When they want to find that, they can copy and paste the text out of here, go back to the takeoff, and they can actually search for this information. So Windows 17 or generic, and they can go copy it out of here and they can put it straight back into the model and go into search up here, 17, search, and it will go through and search everything with 17 in it. I probably should have put W17 in there. You can search for things in there. There it is there, Windows 17, right there. He can find that window inside of the model, edit, see more. It'll go through and he can click on Windows 17 and find whichever window or door it is by simply clicking on the blue text on the left hand side. The name of the game here, guys, is to help you build more efficiently, help you build more correctly, get a bill of quantities out of it and an accurate quote to the client. The model is a central source of truth and you can add all of your prices in quick, smart, and basically move on to the next project. Guys, it is a chargeable service. I do charge clients for this service because it enables me to show them what they're going to get. It enables me to show them how I'm going to build it in some instances. It enables me to show my subcontractors how I'm going to do it. It enables me to figure out where potential problems are before I actually put my balls on the line and actually have a dollar figure go to the client. Anyway, guys, if you've got any questions, ask them below. If you like the video, push like. If you dislike the video, push dislike. But make sure you tell us why in the comments so we can improve next time. All right, guys. Cheers.